Hello for this 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time, using the first reading from Sirach and the Gospel from Luke 14, chapter 1, verses 7 to 14. Sirach 3, 17, 18, verse 20, 28, 29. But anyway, Jesus once again is a genius relative to knowing a person's intentions. In that gospel reading, when all those people, he's observing them coming into the banquet or the big meal that a person invites them to, they jockey for the place of honor next to the host or hostess, or next to the famous person, or whatever, one who has the money. And he notices that, and he goes and he thinks about, what's your real intention here? And he says, well, you better watch out even what you're doing, because somebody more important might come in, and the person in charge or the host might say, here, go down and sit there, and ask that person to come up here if they're considered more important. And you just might be caught in your conniving intentions. And I think Jesus just can look at people or look at a situation and see their intention, their proper or improper intentions. And I think he says and does the same thing with us. He knows my intention. And he wants us to move in the direction of good, pure, holy, healthy intentions. And so when he notices that, he says, you better watch out, because you're going in the wrong direction, because that might happen to you. He says, I can tell you something even more important than that little story that I'm telling you, that parable. Well, what could be more important than that? And I think Jesus says, look, when you invite people, just don't invite them so that they can pay you back, but invite a person that's unable to pay you back. And that's when you really will be loving your neighbor in a special way. That's when you will be doing something extremely positive with a more pure, good intention. Invite the person who cannot pay you back. I think that this little parable this Sunday is very appropriate for this week's news. And this week's news is the big problem we have been having for years and years now is debt of college students. They go and get into college and try to do something positive in their life and don't have the money. They need to go in debt. And baby, they go into big time debt. Debt in which some of them can't ever get out of unless they get some help. So this week we have found out that there is in the mode of operation of our government to forgive people of some of their debt or their debt. If you don't make $125,000 a year, well, then you might be able to get 10% or $10,000 off your loan debt. And it might be enough to do it all. If you're a person who was poor in the very beginning and you only way you could get was the Pell Grant debt or loan, well, you can get $20,000 off of your debt. Isn't that interesting? We're finally getting around to helping the people who can't pay off their debt for the rest of their life. Isn't the human thing, the holy thing, the sensible thing, is to get people educated, and when they get educated, that they can make a life and a living for themselves, and they can at least get out of debt. Hmm. I think that's a wonderful intention of our government, and we've been talking about it for years. But what I find is very interesting is some people are screaming, no, 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 it's not fair to let a person off his or her debt when they can't pay it. We paid ours off. We borrowed. We got our education. And now we're making a living. And it's not fair. We paid ours off. Why should we be so lenient or so be open to paying off the debt or part of the debt that the people are unable to pay? Why should we be so open to be so lenient or maybe so Christian? I think it's a wonderful thing to help the poor. I think that was one of the themes of Jesus' life. You could look at a person who was on the dregs of society, or the poor person, or the sick person, or the outcast person, and somehow he had a deep insight of how important he or she was. I wonder if he thought, that person's created in the image and likeness of God. I think he might have because it's in the Old Testament, the book of Genesis. But he felt it. He thought it. And he spoke about it. And he had a keen insight into people's intentions, as we see in the gospel. What is your intentions? I remember in the seminary, we'd be 100, 200 kids coming from the noon prayer before we ate in the chapel. When we go down into the refectory all evening, we'd be running in there. And many of us would be seeking what table I'm going to sit with. I want to sit with my friends. I want to sit closer to my best friend. And we'd jockey for position to who you would sit with, close to. Little kids do it all the time. Big kids do it all the time too. We all have our little intention. Jesus asks us to be sort of perfect and realize that, and maybe go against that. And he asks us a lot to go against. Just the mere fact that inside of that parable, he says, well, look, if you're the one doing the inviting, folks, the Mr. or the Mrs. or the older person or the wealthy person running the show, invite someone that can't pay you back. Wow. What a good intention. What a Christian intention. Go and do that. Well, follow that little story I'm telling you. Jesus was a genius. When you go out, where do you sit? If you're a little kid, where do you want to be at the table? And if you ever grow up and really take seriously the message of Jesus, you'll find that he asks you to really be good. Invite somebody that can't pay you back. That's a basic Christian principle. I admire our government right now for trying to forgive, forget, and lessen the amount of money people owe for their tuitions and their loans, and they can't pay it back. And I'm sorry, I think I can understand the feeling that people say it's unfair. But according to the message of Jesus, I don't think that's the way we should act. Great gospel. Great Jesus. A genius. Have a good day.